Hello there, firsties. Here we are again, continuing our author study on Eric Carle. Yesterday we learned that he oftentimes actually kind of teaches a little bit of mathematics in his stories. I thought that was just so special and kind of him. Let's go ahead, friends, and dive, and I really do mean dive, into another one of his books, okay? This book that I wanted to present to you is titled Mr. Seahorse. And so I did say dive because the setting is in the sea. So I would really like it, boys and girls, as you are listening, to try to see if you can point out or remember, clue in to a couple of the different things that Eric Carle tends to do in his writing. So let's see if we can find any. Look on the back. Ooh, this is a really cool book. I picked it for many reasons, but one is because Eric Carle actually wrote you guys a little message on the back. Let's read it. Dear friends, in most fish families, after the mother has laid the eggs and the father has fertilized them, the eggs are left on their own. But there are exceptions such as the seahorse, stickleback, tilapia, Curtis nursery fish, pipefish, bullhead, catfish, and some others. Not only are the eggs cared for by a parent, but surprise, that parent is the father. This may sound strange, but it is the truth. And this is my story about them. I hope you enjoy my story. Alrighty, kiddos. Odie, are you ready to go ahead and read Mr. Seahorse? You'll like it. Let's go ahead and read this book and see what we can learn about Eric Carle as an author and illustrator. Oh, and friends, I didn't really touch on, an author is the person that writes the words in your books, and the illustrator is the individual that draws or paints or creates the images. So in this book, Eric Carle is doing both. He wrote the words and he included the drawings. Pretty cool. All right, let's do it. Super quick sneak peek as always. Oh yeah, kiddos, I bet you're already thinking, oh, Miss Robinson, I would have known this is an Eric Carle book. Whoa, look at that. Before you even said it was by him. I would recognize those illustrations anywhere. Ooh. Odie back there is saying, ooh, in his puppy dog way. Look at this. Ah. Alrighty. Let's do it. Mr. Seahorse. By the one, the only, Eric Carle. Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist, this way and that. It's time for me to lay my eggs, she said. Can I help? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Oh, yes, thank you, said Mrs. Seahorse. And she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. I'll take good care of our eggs, said Mr. Seahorse. I promise. Aw. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a group of trumpet fish hidden in a patch of reeds. Look at that. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Stickleback? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Delighted, replied Mr. Stickleback. I just built a nest, and right away, Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs into it. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. Keep up the good work, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. Ooh. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Tilapia? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. I know, said Mr. Seahorse. Mrs. Tilapia laid her eggs. Now you are taking good care of them until they hatch. Mr. Tilapia nodded his head. "You must be very happy," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by several leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Curtis?" asked Mr. Seahorse. Perfectly fine," replied Mr. Curtis. "Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs and I have stuck them on my head. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "You are doing a good job," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a stonefish hidden behind a rock. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Pipe?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Couldn't be better," replied Mr. Pipe. "Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "You should feel proud of yourself," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Bullhead?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Tip-top," replied Mr. Bullhead. "Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs and the eggs hatched. Now I'm babysitting." "You are doing a fine job," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted this way and that. At last, the babies tumbled from Mr. Seahorse's pouch and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back into the pouch. "Oh no," said Mr. Seahorse. "I do love you, but now you are ready to be on your own." So there we have Eric Carle's Mr. Seahorse. I want you to think, boys and girls, what sort of things did Eric Carle do within this book that was really unique or special just about him? Think to yourself. So Odie and I are thinking about a couple of different things that Eric Carle did within this book that I felt and he felt were very special and unique. So one was that he kind of was teaching us almost a little bit of science, wasn't he? He was teaching us about how certain male sea creatures actually help the female sea creatures with their babies. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and write that down about Eric Carle? Eric Carle kind of teaches science in his books as well. That's cool. And there's another part of this book by Eric Carle, Mr. Seahorse, that I felt was very fascinating and extremely creative. Can you think of it? I love that Eric Carle included hidden images in his book. Is that what you were thinking? I bet a lot of you were. That was just so amazing to me. It really made the book come to life. So let's write that down. Let's just write down includes hidden images. Okay. Now, friends, there may be other things that Eric Carle was doing in this book that made you say, wow, or made you learn even more about him as an author and as an illustrator, but those are the two that I really wanted to zoom in on today. So kiddos, our activity is a craft. I want to try to teach you how you as well can create hidden images. Okay, friends, so you are going to need some different materials for this craft. So as always, you can go ahead and pause this video if you would like and go grab those materials. You will need your little timeline that I made for you, which was in that baggie that you picked up from the school. You will also need a blank piece of paper. And finally, You will need your whiteboard marker and then plus whatever other writing utensil you'd like. Maybe just a pencil, maybe just a pen, maybe you want lots of colored markers, maybe you want crayons, maybe you want colored pencils. Go ahead and grab those things. So I'll repeat. You will need your little whiteboard that I made you. You will need your whiteboard marker. You will need writing utensils, okay? Go ahead and grab those things, and when you're ready, press play again. Okay, kiddos, so now what we're gonna do is on your white piece of paper, you're gonna go ahead and do an illustration of whatever you want. Now, I was feeling extremely inspired by Mr. Seahorse, and so I went ahead, boys and girls, and drew him. There he is. So now, kiddos, we're gonna go ahead and slide Mr. Seahorse or whatever illustration that you drew into our little whiteboard. Now, friends, just like when we insert our calendars at the beginning of every month, you don't have to empty out your entire sleeve, but you can if you'd like. I like to just go ahead and put it right on top. So there we have it. Now, this is where it gets really fun. You get to go ahead and take that whiteboard marker that I provided and draw on top of this seahorse or whatever illustration that you made. So I'm going to draw that he's kind of stuck in like a coral reef. So let's see if I can show you. All right, so I'm gonna come on up here. Woo! Add some more. Woo! And another. Ooh, let's add one in between. Let's really cover him up. Right, Odie? And then it's fun, guys, if you color it in. I'm going to do that right over here. Okay, friends, so there is my coral reef. Now, you can be as detailed or as limited as you would like with your little hidden image. And so here it comes. A seahorse hidden in a coral reef. Isn't that so neat, kiddos? Okay, so now, boys and girls, it is your chance to go ahead and try this on your own. Go ahead and be just like Eric Carle and include those hidden images. If you want, boys and girls, to even teach a little bit of science as you do that, great. But today's purpose is just to do a little craft inspired by Eric Carle. Okay, kiddos, let's say goodbye. Okay. Take care, polar bears. We'll see you next time.